we're currently facing wild times in the market and wild times in the world. And something I want you to be thinking about is, are you managing risk? Let's use the example of Silicon Valley Bank. If you put all of your money in that bank and you find out the bank was closed, you can't access your money, you're basically freaking out, right? And then what happened was a bunch of hedge funds, be it Oaktree, Jefferies, etc. They're coming in and they were giving people basically loan shark kind of deals. And if anyone signed this contract when you're kind of under duress, when you're stressing out, you could have really screwed yourself. And I'll be really honest. And this is sort of why managing risk is so important, because if you put yourself in those kind of positions, you will most likely make bad decisions. So this is essentially why you want to manage risk. And let's just suppose in this example, you say had 10% of your money in Silicon Valley Bank. Now, would you like it if you lost all your money due to SVB failing? No, you absolutely wouldn't like it. However, the worst case scenario is that you would lose 10% of all that you have, not 100%. And think about the difference in decision making that you would make, considering the amount of risk that you're taking with one particular, almost fell there. That's a risk that I'm taking for you. But to think about the difference in decision making that you make, depending on the amount of risk that you're taking, right? This is about managing risk. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. I know I always repeat that same phrase, but it's worth sort of reiterating because it happens. You can even take a look at SVB where they're like putting all their eggs in like long dated bonds. Like, what the heck, right? Learn to manage risk. So for example, let's say you're looking at a portfolio and you're like, okay, I got a whole bunch of Apple, I want to diversify, and you go to YouTube and say, oh, well, you got to buy Tesla. Those are still not quite managing risk because you're still buying two different tech stocks. So what you'd be thinking about is, okay, I already have Apple. Do I have any, for example, retail? Do I have any industrials? Do I have any financials, right? Different sectors. And I want to read you guys a comment from one of our regular viewers. So listen to this. This is from Wayne. Wayne is saying, hey, Chris, good morning. Hey, good morning, Wayne. I made $15,000 from FRC or First Republic. I bought it $26.25. I want the YouTubers to keep telling their audience that the market is going to crap and people need to jump out of windows. So yeah, essentially Wayne bought the fear there. And one thing that I want to talk about with you guys, and this is sort of why I talk about managing risk and things like that. And Wayne, nice job. But for anyone out there thinking, oh yes, it's so simple. It's not that easy. However, I'm assuming Wayne is managing risk, meaning that, if you're putting your money in these kind of things, you're not stressing out by putting in too much, right? You manage your risk so you make good decisions. So Wayne, you probably made a good decision. You're like, you know what? It's dropping down. I'm trying to stay calm. I'm looking at this saying, you know what? Maybe it's worth the risk. And yes, you can make money in the stock market, but manage risk because you'll make much better decisions. And I understand we're living this culture where it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna YOLO, 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 because Wayne could have guessed wrong. That is a real thing. I'm not, discrediting you, Wayne, at all. I'm just saying manage risk. You'll make better decisions. And yes, if the risk to reward ratio made sense for you, it made sense for Wayne, sometimes you can do really, really well. I want to read some more comments as well. This is coming from Caesar saying, I'm guessing I should be purchasing Chainlink and silver. It sounds like the safest investment. Probably, and I think if you're referring to Chainlink, are we talking about fences? If so, it'll definitely protect you from the zombies. That's what I have to say about that. Mike is saying buy gold and guns. Yes, if you're worried about the end of the world, guns, I guess gold, but I'm not sure, to be really frank. In the future of zombies, would people really be trading gold? I kind of don't think so. Actually, talking out loud, I would say maybe raviolis would be a good investment, right? Because I just finished watching Last of Us and they were to find a can of ravioli that's something to celebrate. Maybe tuna fish is a good investment as well. But these are end of the world scenarios. And I want to read another comment. This is by King. King is saying, Wall Street people don't just lie to you, they lie to each other. When things go bad, they have no problem stabbing each other in the back. A lot of the companies that survived these crashes did by screwing over other companies. And unfortunately, that is the reality of the world. That's sort of why I talk with you guys about these kind of things. We're in a trust no one sort of situation, but it's all about managing risk. Yes, there will be opportunity. Yes, there's going to be First Republican bank kind of things. Yes, you could make a ton of money by buying the dip, but manage your risk because you could be wrong. And this is something that is very important to understanding marketing of this like that, is that you got to humble yourself sometimes. And I think one of the things that is a bad culture on YouTube or even on TV is like people act like they get every trade absolutely correct. They act like, they bought every single dip and they act like they got all the, money in like one day, this kind of things. And it's frankly not true. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right, but that is part of managing risk, is accepting that fact that there is uncertainty. And so managing risk is also about managing uncertainty. And also too, a big part of risk management is understanding that there are different opportunities out there and not just in the particular class of assets that you're looking at. So for example, on YouTube, it's really, really cool to talk about stocks because yes, they have really high upside and they also have really high downside. And this is part of managing risk, understanding the upside and the downside and knowing that there are other opportunities out there, right? So if you turn to a stock channel, they're just gonna be like, hey, are we buying Apple or are we buying Tesla? But it's kind of the same thing. They're both big tech companies. What I want you to be thinking in your mind and in your world is think about, okay, not just stocks, but what about bonds? What about cash? What about real estate? And yes, for some people, what about gold? What about crypto, right? I'm just mentioning it. And also too, a very important thing, which a lot of channels don't talk about, what I do very specifically is what about your job and your career? Because a lot of this stuff becomes moot, frankly. It doesn't matter what your knowledge of, say stocks and bonds and assets, if you don't have any income coming in to manage said things, right? So this is sort of why I want you to be thinking about managing risk and all this stuff in sort of a holistic kind of approach. I know you can do it. And this is also too why we have a community to help support each other. It's sort of like, hey, these are other opportunities that I'm thinking about. Hey, this is my opinion on this stuff kind of thing, because it's a big world and there's so much stuff out there. You don't have to take every single type of opportunity out there. And essentially what you need to do is manage risk to take, you know what, this one looks good. The risk to reward ratio looks okay for you and you're willing to take the plunge. However, always manage risk. Risk assessment is also a big part of managing risk, essentially understanding what is a realistic downside versus a realistic upside. And one of the cool ways that we do this in this community / on this channel is you guys put out really great comments. We got a really smart community. And something I want to, sort of emphasize with you is that it's okay if you don't know every single thing out there in the world. That's okay. You know why? Because there's someone else who's going to be an expert in something. There's someone else who's going to have experience in something. There's someone else that may be able to answer the questions that you have and share different thoughts and opinions. And so this is why I try so hard on this channel, just to give you guys good information. That's sort of my goal. I always appreciate coming back for more. And if you don't learn anything else from this particular video, is manage risk. So I was just checking my email and I've been getting multiple emails from banks that are basically saying, we saw the news of Silicon Valley Bank, but hey guys, we're okay because we're risk managing and please don't pull out your money. So I'd be curious how many banks that you guys have heard from, but for me, it's been, I'd say 75% of them, so 3/4 of the banks that I have. One thing that's kind of funny though, is that I guess if I haven't heard from a bank that I'm banking with regarding, the safety and their risk management, should I be worried, or should I be more worried from the banks that I have heard of? So again, trust no one. This is so crazy, but this brings up the point of, again, risk management, because essentially what you're trying to do, you're trying to convince other people that, hey, I got things under control. I'm a competent person and I want to maintain a good relationship with you. This is what banks are trying to do. And then obviously the next question is going to be, well, Chris, who do I trust, right? What if my banks are lying to me? And my answer would be, this is all about managing risk, right? So if you know that, say, the FDIC insures $250K in your bank account, if you don't go over that amount, right, you're going to be okay. That's managing risk. So what happened to a lot of people is that they weren't managing risk, effectively. They threw all their bank, all their money in one bank, and then that bank kind of goes under, and then they're kind of like in a really bad spot, and this is something that people didn't plan for. It happens. Sometimes things go the way that you expect. Sometimes the unexpected does happen, but that's life. And this is something that happens with experience, is that you sort of you say, you know what, I've had that bad experience before. I'm going to do what I can to mitigate risk, right? This is all about managing risk. And I want you to think about in your life, are you doing everything that you need to be doing that sort of ensures that you feel comfortable when you go to bed at night? Do you feel like, okay, my money is safe, my job is safe, my relationships are safe? Are you doing the necessary precautions? Are you putting them in place so that you can live a happy life and free? And so one thing I'm telling with you guys is that when you spread out your risk in any number of ways, we talk about different things, it helps you sleep at night because you're not all dependent on one particular outcome to be, right? You've managed your risk well. So always helpful for you. Always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.